Mistward stands alone when Wendlin is unable to send reinforcements, leaving Selena and Rowan scrambling to fortify the fortress. But their plans crumble when traitors open the way for Norok's army. Under cover of darkness, the Valg princes strike from the front, while mortal soldiers access the tunnel beneath the walls, plunging Mistward into chaos. Selena faces the Valg princes alone as Rowan and the cadre battle inside the fortress. Overpowered and dragged into her own memories, Selena is forced to relive the 2 horrific days she's buried for years. But by finally confronting her past, she unleashes the full fire of her heritage, claiming her name, Aelin Ashriver Galathinius, and obliterating the Valg in a blaze that changes the war forever. Hey there, we're Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, your book besties who take the novels you love seriously.
This is Jack.
And I'm Amy.
And we bring the tools of literary analysis to the women-written novels lighting up Book Talk, from romance to romantasy. Think of it as your favorite fandom books treated with the same respect you'd give a classic in literature class, just with more humor and less homework.
Each season, we deep dive into one book, breaking down themes, imagery, and character motivations. Together, we combine our 13 years of literary academic training with our fandom love to help you see your favorite books in a whole new way. We also analyze the story through 2 different literary lenses, giving you more than one way to look at the text.
This week, we're discussing chapters 50 through 56 of Sarah J. Maas's 3rd novel in the Throne of Glass series, Heir of Fire.
For a complete list of episodes and chapter breakdowns, be sure to check out our Instagram at the handle BookTok for BookTok.
Before we dive in, let's talk about S.P.I.L.T. Spoilers, perspective, interpretation, language, themes.
Spoilers! This episode covers Heir of Fire with the full context from 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
Not the first 3 books, as we learned last week. Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and Heir of Fire. If you haven't read those, this is your only spoiler warning. Anything beyond Heir of Fire and other SJM works will be saved for our Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks episode that airs this Thursday.
Perspective, interpretation. These are just our takes, our personal readings of the text. We don't speak for Sarah J. Maas, and we know you'll have your own interpretations too. We love hearing them, so share away.
Language. We use explicit language, and it's just going to happen, so please be cautious who you're around when you listen to us.
Mm-hmm. Themes. We will discuss tough topics like sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death. We will do our best to flag heavier moments where we can, but listener discretion is advised.
As always, let's keep the conversation going. Tag us, DM us, or use the submission form on our website. And if you want exclusive content and live streams, you'll find us over at patreon.com/booktalk4booktalk.
Can't get enough of analysis? Make sure to check out the Subtext Society Journal, where we write think pieces discussing the romance and romantasy genre as a whole, the ongoing conversations in the bookish community, and insights on the publishing world. You can read our latest articles for free with no subscription required, but to receive the new articles in the future, make sure to subscribe.
Want to be published? Head to the subtextsocietyjournal.substack.com to submit your piece for a chance to be a contributor.
Each week, we ask ourselves a question, except for this week. Instead of asking ourselves a question, we're going to select a specific moment from these chapters to analyze critically from multiple lenses. Stay tuned for the discussion at the end of this episode where we decide what we're going to analyze, because we don't know yet.
It's going to be a surprise to all of us. Themes we see in this section include vulnerability and facing uncomfortable truths.
So we start in chapter 50, and we're with Selena, and she's throwing a bunch of power into the shield because she's upset about the slaves being killed. Understandable. Quote, a cooling breeze kissed down Selena's neck. The forest had gone silent as the birds and insects had been quieted by her assault on the invisible wall. The barrier had gobbled down every speck of magic she launched at it, and now seemed to hum with fresh power. I feel like this episode in particular is going to have to do a lot with consuming power, with taking power, and with giving power. And I think it's really fitting that it's described as, quote, gobbling or gobbled, almost like the shield is greedy for the power when she's about to feed it even more power later.
I completely agree. Gobbled has such a connotation of like gluttony and overindulgence. And I do think that speaks both to Selena's current output of magic as well as the consumption of it by the wards. Like, even though she's mad, you would think, oh, well, with Norak coming, I should conserve my energy for a fight. But no, I'm
No,
just going to waste it on this
no. Just
ward.
imagine if she had kept it.
I know.
Just imagine.
It is interesting in this moment, though, that the wards of Miss Word are just as like ravenous to consume Selena's magic as the Valg princes will be later in the episode. And to me, it's like no matter what side you're on, no matter your intention or what the intention is, everything and everyone wants a piece of Aylin's magic.
And not just a piece of Aylin's magic, but a piece of Aylin too. Particularly, I don't know why I revert to Crunk whenever I talk about Rowan, but I do. But particularly Rowan, quote, "The scent of pine and snow wrapped around her, and she turned to find Rowan standing against a nearby tree. This is very sexual." I mean, so the quote is continuing from before where it's described as a cooling breeze kissed down her neck.
Mhm.
So I'm not just coming in being like, the scent of pine is so sexual, but like, we know he controls the wind. We know he's cooling her down. We know that it's kissing down her neck. Eh? And I like this because she's actually going to get his power later this episode. So I feel like all of this is starting to kind of lead up to tease to that.
I agree. I also think that, for Rowan to be using his magic to keep her cooled down enough to continue to exhaust her energy is almost like an acceptance or an approval of how
Mm,
she's using her magic and basically unleashing violence
yeah.
because this is sensual, it is comforting.
Hmm.
And I agree, the sensuality of the magic feels like a foreshadowing of things to come.
Yeah. There's a lot. I feel like Rowan just keeps encouraging her doing the wrong opposite thing of what he would normally
Yeah.
encourage her this
Yeah.
episode. But that's love. That's amore. So then they learn that Miss Word is about to be attacked and that no one's going to help. And Rowan goes against everything he said and was like, "You should leave." Quote, "You do not have to stay. We can go to Dornell tonight and you can retrieve your knowledge from Maeve. You have my blessing." When I first read that, I was like, I like how he subtly snuck himself in there of
Yeah.
also fleeing. Like, did you notice that?
Yeah.
You don't have to I do this with you all the time. "Amy, whatever you wanna do, if you wanna go to this amazing fun thing, then we can go.
Oh, I do that all the time. If you don't feel up to recording today, we could totally record
We
on
don't have to."
Tuesday.
I know, what was it? It was something you texted me earlier today. You're like, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "Unfortunately, I'm feeling okay." We both have to feel icky. But that was, like, the first thing I noticed. I was like, "Real subtle there, bro." However, again, he's kinda doing the opposite of what he's said from the get-go. He's encouraging her to run. And he claims, though, it's because that she's the last of her bloodline, as if her bloodline suddenly matters. And he's like, "I can reproduce with you."
Yeah. That is the subtext here, guys. It's about
"I'm gonna
reproduction.
kiss your neck, and then I'm gonna tell you how important your bloodline is, and then we're gonna go sleep in my one bed."
Mhm. There is an interesting focus on heritage, particularly Aylin's heritage leading up to this, and of course, royals in general, because we're going to learn that these creatures are Velg princes. Obviously, this is also in my mind, it's also set up for the fact that we're going to go back in Aylin's memories, back to a time when she was a princess. So important to remind the reader that, oh, by the way, Aylin's a princess if you haven't remembered. And
Mhm.
her parents are dead, in case you've forgotten. It is an interesting out for Rowan to be like, well, your bloodline is important because he certainly hasn't treated her that way
Also,
since
aren't
the
they the
start.
same bloodline? Cousins. Kissing cousins.
Technically, one's from Mab and one's from.
Very distant, but yeah.
Yes, they're very distant cousins. I wrote this note and I'm like, why did I write that? Does it hint at the fact he's starting to see her as the royal slash leader she will become? I'm going to say no. I
Oh, I was
think
gonna say yes, but continue.
I was going to say I think it's a easy excuse for him without him saying I'm worried about you, I want to keep you safe. Because it's
Yeah.
not about his feelings, it's
Yeah.
about her reality.
I agree. No, I'm not gonna oppose it. Like, it is one of those things where I think there is a certain level of realization that's like, "Oh, no, this is a queen. This is Aelin
Mm,
Ashriver Galathinius, and she is actually quite powerful," and especially now that she's opened up to him why she doesn't wanna take up the mantle and
yeah.
be queen, and I think there's a lot more empathy happening, but I think he would say anything to get her out.
Yep. I agree.
Selena, though, tells him, like, "No, we gotta stay, like, we have to be there," and she busts out this very famous line that we're gonna see again and again, quote, "You are trusted and respected, so I am staying because you are needed and because I will follow you to whatever end." It's a very interesting way that she's pledging her allegiance to him. I find it interesting that she's pledging her allegiance to Rowan rather than protecting the Fae. She's not saying like, no, I'm staying here because that's the right thing to do. I'm staying here to protect the people who need protection. She's literally saying, you are trusted and respected, so I'm staying because you are needed and I will follow you to whatever end. It just is there a shift in her priorities here?
So my feeling is that this is a very typical Selena
Mhm.
choice, not an Aelin choice, because Selena only knows how to commit herself to an individual.
Yeah.
Her desire to help the people in Ilwe and Calaculla ties to her promise to Nehemia,
Mhm.
not to those individuals. I think Aelin is the woman of the people, where Selena is the woman who can only kind of focus on one relationship at a time. And we've been seeing over the last few chapters how focused Selena is on Rowan and how smart and cunning and strong he is. And she's definitely become very singular and focused on Rowan. Rowan has replaced Nehemia and Kale.
Right, literally, he is going to
Literally.
replace her,
Yes.
Nehemia, with a
Yes.
scar, so
Yep.
yes to everything you're saying. Rowan then gives her his blessing. Quote, he reached into his tunic and pulled out a dagger, her dagger. He extended it to her, its long blade gleaming as if he'd been secretly polishing and caring for it these months. And when she grasped the dagger, its weight lighter than she remembered, Rowan looked into her eyes, into the very core of her, and said, Fireheart. Woo! Okay, I love this moment. So we're going to break it down into three different parts here. One is the fact that he is giving her dagger back, deeming her ready and worthy. And the fact that she picks up this dagger, which it comes from Adderlin. There's a lot of drama behind this dagger. It feels lighter. You can even see that as her own conscious starting to feel lighter of everything
Hmm.
that has happened to her. And then you have the fact that he's been protecting and polishing the blade, a representation that he has been doing that to her, polishing her over the months, getting her ready for battle. And then the fact that he is using one of her other names. And this isn't a name that Rowan is giving her. This is a name that she was kind of born with. It was something that her parents, or her mom and dad, called her. Aelin, Fireheart. These are the same people. And it's not like Kale only called her Selena. Nehemia was like, you know what? I'm going to give you a whole other name. Let's just come out with a whole new one. Rowan here is titling her what her titles already are.
Right, and calling them to the forefront, right? And for me, that's another moment that he's signaling acceptance,
Yeah.
that ultimately whoever she decides to be, because quite frankly, she doesn't know if she's Selena or Aelin right now.
Hmm.
Rowan knows and trusts that Aelin is there and will ultimately be the one standing in Aelin's body.
Yeah.
Sounds weird. But
I
you
get
get
it.
what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I get it.
He's like, "Aelin, I know you're there. I'm putting you on the spot so that you continue to show up."
Hmm.
And It's interesting because in some ways, by her shrugging off his comment that she's the last of her bloodline, she's in some ways not accepting that title, right? Of royalty, of responsibility.
Yeah.
So instead, he's resorting to names and titles that are sentimental to her,
Mhm.
which do tug on her heartstrings as well as ours, and shows he's listened,
Yeah.
he cares,
It's hot. He listened.
he listened.
Woo! Okay, so they go back to his room, and I'm about to list off some sexy, sexually charged moments. I do want to preface this that I wrote this the day after I watched Heated Rivalry. So, a softcore gay hockey romance that is hot. So they go back to his room. She's sitting on the bed watching him. He is shirtless and he's washing himself with a slutty little towel. Quote, he wiped his face with a towel, then leaned against the dresser, bracing his hands against either end. The wood groaned, but his face remained still. He just fucked that dresser. You can't tell me otherwise. And that towel, that is an after sex towel if I've ever seen one.
My gosh. In my head, he's leaning back against it. No? Are you
Raised
imagining
his
he's
hand. He's leaned against up front.
Oh,
Oh god,
okay.
both are slutty. So there's
Both are
like the
slutty.
up front and he is just like shimmying his chest to it or whatever. And then the version that you have, he's like back and he's like dick out,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. That's what I see.
Yeah. It's very much though like the last act, right? The last sex before a battle type thing, but minus the sex, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
in my mind,
It definitely is coded that way of
mhm,
if they were anybody else, they would be having sex right now because it might be the last time that they ever have sex or see each other or whatever.
yeah. You just have the sex, guys. If it's there, if it's an
Yeah,
option, and if you want it,
take it.
just do it. I was actually thinking about this a lot earlier today. Just have the sex. Don't wait if you don't want to. Okay. So, after revealing that Rowan called his band of merry men for help, Selena gets very formal. So, she goes up to him. He's like, you're approaching me. And she's staring him down. She goes, quote, I claim you, Rowan Whitethorn. I don't care what you say and how much you protest. I claim you as my friend. First off, I relate. It's how I got Amy. It's how I got most of my friends. I just walked up and I was like, you're my friend now. Second, though, is the ownership. This is the first time we've seen Selena ever claim anyone like this.
Mhm,
There is an ownership and it's very animalistic, and you can say it's like very fey, but it's almost like a new way of life. Sort of something like Amy said, where we're not seeing Aelin, but we're not seeing Selena. This is a
mhm,
very Aelin thing. This is not very Selena. Selena wants to die, as we will see, and Aelin wants to live. And you can't,
mhm.
don't go claiming friends if you don't plan on living.
That's a good point. Didn't even think about it that way. I also feel like the formality of the way that she says this is very royal. It's the
Hmm.
way a royal would declare that they've claimed something, whether that be land, people, etc.
Yeah.
And also, in some ways, it feels like a declaration of war against Maeve. Like,
Mm,
Rowan, you are mine.
yeah.
And however you want to interpret that, you are mine. And can he really be hers if he belongs to Maeve?
Mm,
So I like this because it kind of sets the stage for all the things that are going to happen in this episode and later down the line. But no matter what, she wants Rowan to know that whether, we make it out of this alive or not, you're mine.
yeah.
And we'll figure out the rest from there.
Can someone go to their husband, their partner, and then just like look them in the eye and be like, you're mine. I claim you. I just want to know, especially if you have a husband, how does a guy feel like if you're just go up to them and be like,
Mm.
you're mine. I claim you.
Yeah, because it's also a very masculine thing to do.
Yeah. So for the listeners that have male partners, I would test this out. Unfortunately, currently no one there at this time. However,
For you. For you.
yeah,
Okay. You just said, unfortunately, not there at this time. So I just
yeah.
wanted
Well,
wanted
like,
to
were you thinking I was throwing you in there?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. I
okay,
just wanted to provide
for
clarity
me,
for the
yeah.
listener.
Clarity for the listener, I'm single, so case you guys didn't pick that up. So for anyone who has a husband, or a boyfriend, please do it and then let us know. See how they react. It's kind of like there was a trend on TikTok where women would just like pick up their husbands and put them on the counter.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
All right, let's take a sip. Chapter 51. This is my one note. Battle starts.
Yeah, you skipped straight into the battle, so I'm gonna do some of the lead up to the battle
Mhm.
with my notes. So Rowan wakes up Aelin and is like, "Hey, they're here." And we see how much Selena or Aelin has grown, and particularly her trust in Rowan. Because after she wakes up, she just immediately puts on her clothes and thinks, quote, she didn't bother with questions. He would tell her what was necessary. She hopped into her pants and boots. I didn't need to copy that part. What the hell? Anyway, he would tell her what was necessary, like a good soldier. Selena is not there to question. She's there to act. She's not the same impulsive girl from the start of this novel.
Mhm.
So they get dressed. They go out to I'm going to guess, parapet something. They go out there to inspect what is happening because they are surrounded by darkness. And Selena observes Rowan during this point. Quote, such icy calculation. Purebred, undiluted warrior. She could almost feel the aggression pouring off him. I found this line, I'll be honest, a little disturbing because she's glorifying his full fayness,
Mhm.
which puts his purebredness on a pedestal.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I wasn't even okay. Oh, I like that. I mean, I hate that, but I like because I was dissecting this in a feminist lens. And right now, I would look at this as like a colonial
Uh huh.
almost lens. So keep talking about
Exactly.
it. And then I want to observe this slightly differently.
So, if we do think of it from like a colonial lens, even from a power lens, this is glorifying what it means to be pure because pure equals strong, right?
Hmm.
So, from a colonial lens, it would be white equals
Conquering native. Yeah.
conquering, powerful, etc., which kind of bothers me. But from a power perspective, I also understand what it's doing is it's giving us a sense of her newly developed admiration
Hmm.
for what it means to be Fae and the desire to be Fae. Which is interesting because it's something she'll never be able to attain herself, right? She will never be fully Fae. She will always be demi-Fae. And to what extent does that make her view Rowan as always stronger than her because he is
Yeah.
purebred? Also, SJM and her FMCs love to call MMCs undiluted. Undiluted power, undiluted warrior.
No, I love that. I love that take. I mean, if you want to take that same moment and look at it through more of like a horny feminist lens, you can say that we've discussed before that Rowan is the only match for Selena compared to like Sam and Kale because she could not respect someone who
Mhm.
was not a true warrior. And when you have a moment like this, like a scene like this, where his icy calculation, his aggression pouring off of him, Kale could never at
Right.
this point. He's too young. He hasn't seen war. He killed one man and cried about it, frankly. And versus Rowan is this man. He's not man, he's male, but like something that Selena's never seen before. And it speaks to this animalistic nature in her that identifies like,
A breeding partner.
yeah, like a breeding partner essentially.
Yeah.
And that's how you look at things in two different point of views.
Or three. We did more than two that time.
Wow. Menage a trois of lenses.
SJM goes on to use some I called it circle of life imagery because I wasn't feeling good yesterday, guys. So she uses some circle of life imagery to show us how terrifying and inevitable the darkness is that is creeping up on Mistward. Like, quote, the paw of a massive beast, the darkness behind the creatures lashed out, sweeping over the fleeing animal. The rabbit fell mid-leap, its fur turning dull and matted, bones pushing through as the life was sucked out of it. It's very creepy that the darkness can just go and
Ooh,
suck
hate that
everything out of
noise.
you.
I hate that noise. No!
I won't do it again, I promise. It's a good thing you don't have to edit this episode.
I hated everything about that. Continue.
We are made to feel like Selena and the inhabitants of Mistward will be the rabbit, will be sucked down dry to the bone because they are nothing but prey. Like there's nothing they can do. Because think about it, the use of the rabbit is intentional because rabbits are associated with speed. We think, tortoise and the hare, the rabbit is the faster animal. Yet even the rabbit could not escape the darkness. Also, it's just sad. It just makes me sad. What did the rabbit do?
And like, what tragic thing is the rabbit thinking of, too? Like, has to relive all of its scary moments, almost getting eaten,
By a
reliving its little
fox.
bunny life,
It's sad.
saying goodbye to its bunny family in its head.
Stop. That makes me sad. This is the point then where we see the three creatures with their collars or their black torques, and they reveal themselves to be. Oh, I don't think they reveal themselves yet. I just keep calling them Valg princes because it's easier.
We know it's going to be. Like, there's no spoilers for the set book. These are the princes.
So the Valg princes show up, and they are beautiful, unlike Norak, who we see for the first time. Quote, he was scarred and powerfully built and armed to the teeth, but he too had skin carved with those glittering black veins and wore that torque of obsidian. Even from this distance, she could see the devouring emptiness in his eyes. It seeped toward them like blood in a river. I just wanted to point out a couple of visuals here. We see black veins on Norak and the Valg princes, which I like the visual because it implies infection. I know it's tied to the black stone around their neck, which we know is associated with evil in general, but it also, it makes me think of The Witcher, and The Witcher is infected. So there's that. And then this imagery of blood in a river. When blood falls into a liquid, it diffuses, so it spreads out evenly throughout the liquid that it's in. And it's unstoppable. You can't contain it. That's what diffusion is. And so for blood to be in a river or blood to be in water means that it's going to taint the water all around it, change the color, and contaminate it. And so I thought that was a nice visual as well.
It is a nice visual. I was just thinking, you mentioned earlier about the title of prince and like royalty, princess, king, queen. I just feel like everyone's getting a royal title these days in
What about
Heir of
me?
Fire. I know. I mean, like, we have Dorian, we have Dorian, we have Aelin, we have Rowan, we have the Valg princes, we have Nehemia.
Adian.
It's Kale's just over here being like, I'm a lord. But
But even I gave that up.
yeah, but it's just kind of funny where there's like the Valg princes, which is, very dramatic and intense, and I love the name of it, but I'm also like, oh my God. Is anyone here not a prince?
Yeah,
Or a
seriously.
princess? So Rowan is really torn between helping people and leaving Selena alone. And he says, quote, you are the heir of the throne. Right now, I am a woman who has the power that might save lives. Let me do this. Help the others. I love this. I love that she claimed her own identity, not as an heir, but as a woman. That woman, her being, her identity as a woman is what's coming before her being an heir. And the priority of the woman, that is Aelin, is to protect the people. It's not about titles. It's not about anything else. It's about responsibility of others.
Yeah. And that's where we're starting to see Aelin overtake Selena, right? Because Selena was into following Rowan, but Aelin is here to save lives.
I have one more note that just popped in my head, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting because Rowan says, like, you are the heir to the throne. And the thing about being an heir to the throne is that there's an automatic nature of you have to have kids in order to
Mm,
continue. And I kind of like that he's throwing her reason for safety to be her reproductive importance. And she
mm,
counters it with, I am a woman who has power.
mm. That's a really, really, really good point. Where you're saying it's not about the fact that I can reproduce and create more heirs. It's about the fact that I'm a woman with power
Yeah.
who needs to protect people.
Her only power isn't the power of her reproductive
Mhm.
abilities.
Yep.
Her power is what the woman, has.
Yeah. I love that.
Thank you. I do too. Good job, best friend.
Now, this is one moment where we've thought for some time that Selena's really found peace and comfort in this idea that Rowan sees her as a good soldier. But she is now flipping it on its head to fool him into leaving her behind so that she can do what she thinks is important right now. So she, quote, nodded like the good soldier Rowan believed that she was and said, understood. Now, this is when he orders her to like protect herself, don't get hurt, don't do anything
Mhm.
stupid. And she's
Mhm.
like, yeah, okay, I won't. Um,
Totally.
I got you. I got you. But what this is telling me, because she does she steps beyond the words, she does do the thing that Rome tells her not to do. And that's because at the end of the day, her self loathing and her need to quote unquote atone for her sins is more important than having Rowan's respect, than
Yeah.
being the good soldier that Rowan wants her to be. And
Yep.
I do appreciate that at her core, she is still the same.
Absolutely. And I just love the imagery of Selena going into battle, not just because she starts like busting out flames left and right, but because of the positioning and the description of the flames. Quote, the curving stones of the gateway loomed, and she drew the sword from her back with her right hand, and her left hand enveloped in flame. To me, it really gives the scales of justice.
Hmm.
She is holding, I mean, you could even give royalty because you have a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
times, royals holding like
Scepter,
the scepter and the ball
globy thing.
globy thing, but there's a lot of imagery that you can associate with, one like in one hand, one thing, in the other hand, another thing, and it always comes down to royalty, to justice, to fighting, and I think that this was a very beautiful visual.
What is that thing called? Because I'm like, holy hand grenade, but that's not what it is. But it looks like a holy hand grenade
No?
from Monty Python.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
The orb and scepters. So I
Mhm.
guess it is an orb.
Their little crystal ball.
Ceremonial staff symbolizing royal and sovereign power, paired with an orb used by monarchs as a sign of authority, originating from ancient symbols of power. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
It doesn't make sense, or they're like, "I am in charge, and if you don't listen to me, I'm gonna throw it at you."
I don't know. Is it symbolically like the world in their hand? Because monarchs are viewed as appointed by God, right? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I like to think it's dodgeball, and it's made out of pain and death.
I mean, yes. The final image of this chapter speaks to what we've learned Selena believes about herself slash about Aelin, and that is the fact that she's a monster. And this is going to continue to come up throughout this episode. Quote, this was the least she owed those murdered in Endovier and Caliculla, the least she could do after so long. A monster to destroy monsters. And it's really important we get this image now because she's going to go through a progression
Mhm,
to overcome this belief about herself.
mhm.
But right now, in this moment, she's reaffirming her belief that she's a monster.
Yep,
And I find it fitting that she uses this now because we're about to learn more of that monster origin story.
yep, yep.
Take a sip.
Take a soup. It's funny. I have a lot of notes later, But in some of these notes, I'm just like, I didn't have much. So we start chapter 52, and here's my one note until later. Selena meets the Valak princes, and they start to fight.
Yep. And this is where we learned that the Valk princes are Valk princes. And they tell Selena that they're from, quote, a realm of eternal dark and ice and wind, he said. And we have been waiting a very, very long time to taste your sunshine again. So I love this line for a number of reasons. We are once again seeing the theme of consumption. But what I like about it, it feels like a perversion of Rowan's magic because ice and wind, pine and snow, those are what we associate with Rowan's magic and how it interacts with Selena's magic. There is something sexual about this moment, but not in a good way. And then, of course, I don't know why I didn't continue my thought. Anyway, whatever. And then, of course, there's this idea, like I said, of consumption and that the ice, dark, and wind want to consume the sunshine, which is like Selena's fire. But we'll get more into that later. As Selena fights, she relinquishes control over her magic, which is an interesting choice because that's the same control she's been working so hard to develop throughout the novel. Quote, she gave her magic free rein, only asking it to keep the shield behind her alive. It did so, gobbling up her reserves. Selena, trusts her magic more than herself in some ways. And to me, it comes across as the same way she kind of trusts Rowan blindly more than she trusts herself. And at the same time, it's also a partner, right? She doesn't necessarily have control of it. She's like, just please be considerate. Go do your thing, but like, don't forget me.
Uh, I get it. This is a me writer thing, not a actual critique, but when it comes to certain words, like gobbled is such a distinct word and you're only talking about the shield so many times. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're referencing the shield, like let's say you reference it 3 times and 2 out of the 3 times you're describing it as gobbling,
Yeah.
I personally believe you find another word.
Yep. I agree.
There's a lot of like writer notes that I have in this episode that I hope people find interesting.
I do.
Anyway, at least Amy says yes, and everyone else hasn't said anything, mainly because it's not out yet. While fighting, Selena struggles to harness her magic because it's totes super powerful. Quote, her knees quaked, but she swallowed the blood in her mouth and took another breath. She is consuming her own blood and her own weakness, but it's also her own strength, right? Because like your blood is what's keeping you alive. But at the same time, the fact that she's bleeding is showing her weakness. And I just
Mhm.
like that image can be used to interpret 2 different ways if you'd wish. The boy band has heard Rowan's call and they have all showed up. Quote, shouldering past the other towering male who now appeared, Lorcan. Even Lorcan had answered his call. No notes, just Lorcan! Ah! You don't understand the appeal?
I
Oh,
do
I'm
not.
about to be so hot for Lorcan.
I don't understand it.
I don't remember why.
You just remember the feeling.
I just remember this very specific feeling. And I think it's because he's just like not a nice guy. And I just love that shit.
Oh.
Last night I was like, you know what? I was scrolling through Hinge. I'm like, I really need to break away from like the certain type because I had a type of guy that I dated for a long time, and then I was like, I need to break away from that type, and then it switched to another type of guy, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And I'm like, you know what? You know what? There's a lot of men left over are blonde men, and I think that we tap into this. All right, I expand my horizons.
I mean, I did like the blonde men as long as they had brains.
I don't know. I don't know what's available to me right now.
That's fair.
But I was just kind of thinking because Lorcan, I'm like, oh, like kind of an asshole, brooding.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sign me up. Rowan realizes, though, that Selena was never planning to make it out alive. Quote,
Surprise.
so Selena. Quote, she had lied to him. She had wanted to save lives, yes, but she had gone out there with no intention of saving her own. So Rowan is betrayed, but I think he also kind of respects it because he probably would do the very thing that she's doing right now. Also, like I was saying a second before, is that this is a very Selena trait. The fact that she plans to go out saving people, thinking that she's not going to survive, girl has done this so many times.
Yep.
Girly pop loves to go into something not planning to survive.
Yep.
This is something that, again, Selena does. Selena does not value her life. Aelin, though, Aelin does value her life. And in many ways, Selena does die. Selena dies out here. She went in without any plans of coming back, and Selena does not come back.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. Aelin's got shit to do.
Yeah, she does.
Take a sip, guys.
Take a sip.
So now we're in chapter 53, and the princes take Selena through various memories to torture her and to feast on her pain. And I would like to propose that it's very similar to the idea of the 9 rings of hell, a la Dante's Inferno. And the rings of hell are limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath/sloth, heresy, violence, fraud, and treachery. I'm not saying that every single one of these things are represented. If I had more time and energy, I probably would go through each one and force it to fit a certain narrative that I want it
Yeah.
to say. But I think it's fair to say that SJM is 100% using this idea of descending down the rings of hell because she is quite literally, Aelin is quite literally going through all of these memories and there will be a bottom.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I think it should be an SSJ article.
I like the articles where I bitch about things, not think about it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll take this one on for you. How's that?
You have another one of mine to read.
I know. I
I'll
know.
write it. Okay, so one of the first images we get in this descent into hell is Selena standing between 2 bloody beds. And this is Selena between like her parents and Nehemia. These are deaths that she feels like she caused. And again, it brings me back to this imagery of scales of justice rather than her coming in as the one dispersing justice. She is the one who's currently being judged.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I also feel like it's a very deliberate image of mirroring in Selena Sardothian's life, right? Selena
Mhm.
Sardothian began with the death of her parents, and Selena Sardothian's end began with Nehemia's death.
Yeah.
And so they
Yeah.
kind of bookend who Selena Sardothian is.
Yep.
The Valg princes, meanwhile, are like vultures, and they circle Selena as she relives her past. Quote, as before, Selena stood between the 2 bloody beds, reeking breath, caressing her ear, her neck, her spine. She could feel the Valg princes roving around her, circling with predators' gates, devouring her misery and pain bit by bit, tasting and savoring. I love the idea of their breath reeking because they eat flesh, they consume raw meat,
Yeah.
and that's why their breath reeks. At least for predators, that's why their breath reeks. And it's very sexual in how it's caressing her ear, her neck, her spine.
Mhm. Mhm.
And once again, they are tasting, they are savoring because Selena, Aelin, her magic is a meal that gives other people strength. Or in
Yeah.
this case, it's her pain. And they are now partaking.
If there's anything you just like you're saying, like, eats the flesh. If there's anything that I've learned on TikTok is that cannibalism is a lot more common than I thought. All right.
Made me gag.
Yeah. Yeah.
We we are momentarily taken back to an image of Selena in Crown of Midnight. Quote, she now stood like a wraith in her parents' bed, where she had lain 10 years ago, awakening between their corpses. If you recall, Selena was called a wraith or compared to a wraith, looking like a wraith at least 3 times, maybe 4 times in Crown of Midnight. And a wraith is a ghoul, supernatural creature stuck in their grief, made to haunt those around them because of their grief. This is also the point where Selena gets a haircut, which I love because we started the battle when
Mhm.
Selena wakes up. SJM makes sure we see her braid her hair
Yeah.
as she's talking to Rowan before they come outside. And we know from previous books that this is something she always does before she goes into a fight, a la right before she goes and fights Baba Yellowlegs. She
Mhm.
braids her hair. Quote, one of the claws severed clean through her long braid as it whipped her around. It's symbolism. The hair and the cutting of the hair is symbolic. You might not understand why at this point, but as we're going to see, and I'm going to call out through the rest of this episode, the cutting of the hair is literally shearing the past. Her hair especially holds memory,
Mhm.
and that memory needs to be cut out. And that's what we're about to see.
Yeah. I always loved the way that hair in cutting braids, war braids,
Mhm.
represents a lot. There's a lot of cultures where if you shave the head, you've lost honor, you grow it out
Mhm.
depending on battles, and then there's, in hockey, you grow out your facial beard because of
Victory.
victory. One time when I was in high school, there were these 2 brothers who were from the Netherlands, and they were living in Arizona. They're super hot too. But they threw a party at their house when their parents were gone, and the older brother, when his dad found out, because he had, like, this really gorgeous, like, brown curly hair. When his dad found out, apparently he, like, grabbed him, yanked him down, and shaved his head forcefully shaved his head and goes, "I'll respect you again when your hair grows out."
Wow.
He looked
That
so good with a shaved head too.
but that's the kind of shit you put in a book, in a romantasy book. I
Yeah,
love that.
I know. It was good. I mean, very traumatic if you think about, like, a 16-year-old being, like, forced down while their father
Yeah.
shaved their head, and
Yeah.
he came to school, like, absolutely ashamed
Yeah.
and just very it was fucked. Like, he was like it definitely did a number on him. But, like, is that good parenting? I don't I felt like it kinda was. I was like, "That's smart." Like, "I'll respect you when your hair grows out."
I mean, it's obvious to some extent that the kid really identified with his hair, like, that was a core part of his identity.
Yeah, so then that's not so great.
Yeah.
Again, I remember him being super hot, and I was like, he looked great with his hair, he looked great without his hair. What happened to him? Okay, so I really like this chapter because of all of the writing techniques used, and honestly, this whole episode is gonna be me pointing out some writing techniques. So I'm gonna look at this quote here. Maybe her soul was forever trapped here in this plunging darkness. And then there's a scene break. Perhaps this was hell. Blackness was rippling now. And through this descent into hell, there are multiple scene breaks, again, representing another layer, another ring of hell. And each time you can see her struggling through another chapter of her own trauma. And I just really like how SJM wrote it, and I think she did a really good job with that. One of the hells that she visits is her being whipped again. This time, it's Selena being whipped by her loved ones. Selena, quote, went mad as the descent slowed, and she was stripped and strapped between 2 blood spattered posts. The cold air nipped at her bare breasts, a bite that was nothing compared to the terror and agony as a whip cracked and we're not getting a lot of detail. When I first wrote this
Mhm.
note, I wrote there was a graphic amount of detail. I'm like, actually, there's not much detail. You get this idea, you get that she's tied, stripped, and strapped. Just the alliteration between the two, right?
Mhm.
Between the 2 blood spattered posts, right? And then you have the cold air nipping at her bare breasts. And then again, like, it's not much, but at the same time, like, you can feel the fear. You can feel the cold. You can imagine that blood splattered post, and you can almost smell, scent, hear, taste everything that she's going through at this moment. Great writing.
Yeah, I love it because it makes me instantly feel not only vulnerable, but humiliated, like,
Yeah.
ashamed. And when you think about it, this is 17-year-old Selena. her virginal body
Yep.
bare
Yep.
and desecrated, mutilated.
Yep.
And it's not by just anybody. It's by Nehemia and Sam,
Mhm.
who are, at this point, not only alive, but perfect. Quote,
Yeah.
Nehemia was whole, beautiful, and untouched, her eyes full of damning hatred. And then from behind her emerged Sam, handsome and tall. And when you compare Nehemia and Sam in their beautiful forms, in their perfect bodies, desecrating Selena,
Mhm.
it feels like an ultimate disgrace. And it feels like something Selena believes she deserves.
Yeah. Yep.
Meanwhile, the Valg are continuing to savor the mental, emotional, and physical pain that Selena is experiencing. Quote, she had felt their pleasure as she begged for the whipping. It was their sustenance. Her mortal flesh was nothing to them. It was the agony within that was the prize. They would draw this out forever, keeping her as their pet. Sustenance. This is literally, her pain is the life force that keeps
Mhm.
them fed. Again, dealing with consumption. I don't know. It makes me feel things like it's very powerful.
Yeah. What do you think it would, other than, like, the obvious trauma, what other things would it bring you like, make you relive? Like, I think for me, it'd be, like, the one time I farted in a yoga class. And honestly, that would probably keep them going for a long time.
It would be my junior year of high school. I got someone expelled for cheating on tests. And mind you, this was in a class of 14 people, and half the class supported me and half didn't. And I had to endure 2 more months of the semester.
Whoa. Do you wish you hadn't done it? Hadn't
No,
reported? Or
I doubled down on that one. It was at the level where my mother's best friend sided with the boy's mom instead of me and explained it as it was basically boys will be boys instead of holding him accountable.
oh. Was it one of those things that he didn't have to get expelled, but they, like
It was one of those things where there were 14 people in my class. There were only 2 boys. I was friends with both.
uh-huh.
And when my mother told the headmaster,
Mhm.
she revealed the gender of the person who was cheating. And so I had to go back and clarify which one because I didn't want my friend who was
Shit.
innocent to not get in trouble or to get in
Shit.
trouble. Yeah.
What, like, I mean, that feels really extreme to be like, you cheated on a test, you're expelled.
He had I was the first bit of proof in like 3 years of him continually plagiarizing, cheating on tests. Like
Nah.
he broke into our teachers' he would go into our teachers' computers if they forgot to lock them to
Oh,
download all their files. So he knew what the test questions were before the tests happened.
it's such bullshit that people get mad at you when it's like, yeah, and you wouldn't have said anything if he hadn't done it. Annoying.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it if he told everyone in the class except 2 people he didn't like. One of them was one of my friends. So I was like, "Well,
You're
I
not
can't."
even good at it. Like, he's not even good at, yeah, if you're going to do something wrong, be good at it.
Yeah.
My God. All right, one more note before we have a long chapter, and we're going to take a little water break. So then the Valg princes, they're continuing to feed off of her and they're loving this shit. Quote, one by one, they groped her through memories. She fed them, gave them everything they wanted and more. It's giving lust. It's giving gluttony. Again, coming back to the 7 rings of hell. It's almost,
It's very assault
it's
coded.
very assault and it's very like almost orgy coded. Like,
Mm.
because there's a certain level of, okay, I'm gonna say this. There's a certain level of consenting because Selena at this point keeps yelling and like again, another. And it's like this like continued repeated orgy of pain where the princes are consuming and loving it, and she is miserably and reliving it and not loving it, but she's just in it with them as much. It just
Yeah.
shows how much she's struggling.
Yeah. And how much she truly believes she's a monster and she deserves everything that's
Yeah.
happening to her.
Yep. All right, we're going to take a sip. Amy's going to go refill her water because the next section is long.
Long.
I'm going to see if I can find this guy from high school. Okay. I was hoping I could quickly see if I could find the high school guy.
Oh. I'm guessing that's a no.
Wait, I found him.
Oh my.
Ugh. No photos. See if I can find him on Instagram or something.
Yeah. I want to see what he looks like.
So funny. I haven't been on MySpace, or not MySpace. I haven't been on Facebook in forever. Then I'm like, all of a sudden I was scrolling past old messages, and then I was like this one guy that I dated, I was just like scrolling past messages and I saw like a photo on his profile photo was a wedding photo. I was like, oh, he got married?
Oh, wow.
Not,
No, I know.
yeah, not.
Yeah.
I feel like would have
He
told
would have
me.
been like, hey, I'm about to get married.
No, you guys, my
Do you want to
ex,
bang one more time?
he really would. He like last year, he was like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, getting ready for my uncle's funeral. Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I just want to let you know I'm probably going to marry my girlfriend and have kids with her.
Oh, boy.
Mind you, this was my first boyfriend from when I was 20.
Yeah.
Thank you for informing me, though. It's a nice little spiral to have.
He just wants your,
So
I don't
he
know
just
what he
wants
wants
me.
from you.
Yeah. All right. So now here we are, chapter 54, and we finally get a fully formed flashback from Aylin's past and what happened leading up to the night her parents and family were killed. So before that night, the king of Aderlin shows up, and we get this image of the king and his entourage. Quote, their gold and crimson flags, however, flapped in the crisp wind, the golden poles shining as brightly as the armor of their bearers, who trotted at the head of the party. They're clean, there's nothing scuffed, they're polished. It's almost as if they've never been in a fight, and image matters. Because I feel like this could also be like the fraud part of the Rings of Hell, where the king is a fraud, where, there's this image of like, look, we're perfect. We don't fight here. And then they're going to go and kill everyone.
It's also such the opposite of Selena's first impression of the
Yep.
guards when she entered Rifthold, with
Oh,
their
yeah.
tarnished and beaten up armor that
Oh,
hasn't
yeah.
seen. So this is like completely like different in the sense of it's like they were in their golden age.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like they've rusted just as
Mm-hmm.
much. That's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Good point. Good point. I love that. I got chills. Ooh. Okay. We get a little bit of insight also into Aelin, and I just love her dynamic with her uncle as well, who is the king. Only Orlin had smiled at her today, said she looked very pretty in her blue dress and golden crown, and tugged one of her freshly pressed curls. I love this because it really brings home why I feel like, for me personally, Selena likes to wear nice things. It connects her with her past, where she did get to wear nice things, and maybe even shows a connection to her uncle, who praised her.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I just want to point out the image of her freshly pressed curls that he tugs on. If we think about how hair holds memory and and she hasn't cut
Mm.
her, she has very long hair that's been braided all this time, that's
Yep,
just
yep.
been cut off,
Yeah,
etc.
okay. I like it. I like it.
Now, as a result of the King of Otterland's presence, the palace is both full of beauty and violence. It's something we're not unfamiliar with, especially when it comes to Selena. So it's interesting to see that Aelin had a very similar background. Quote, The whole court was snarly and wearing far more weapons than usual. Even, quote, Adian was wearing clean clothes, a crown, and a new dagger, which he'd taken to tossing in the air. There's a lot of references to weapons, even in somewhat unusual places. But even though Aelin observes it as an 18-year-old, it doesn't necessarily bother her. She just acknowledges it. What I find interesting about this is that her origin, Aelin's origin, is not unlike what we've seen Selena encounter in Rifthold. So in that way, Aelin and Selena have kind of the same origin, the same beginning of comfort with violence. Even later in the chapter, quote, there were daggers on Lady Marion's legs beneath her dress. She, Aelin, knew because she kept bumping into them. Lord Cal, Marion's husband, sat beside his wife, the steel on him gleaming. Now, Marion is a nursemaid. She's a lady's maid.
Mm-hmm.
She has been the one taking care of Aelin, and yet she's armed, which is kind of the opposite of what we expect of a nurturing figure.
Yeah. Yep.
Just pointing that out.
I love Lady Marion because SJM does a lot with her, and I feel like she does a lot writing her in such a short amount of time. And I love the way that Aelin thinks about Lady Marion. Quote, Elide, her daughter, the girl was too quiet and breakable for her to bother with usually. And Lady Marion, her nursemaid, would like go and hug her and coddle her, which is hilarious because that's her mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a harsh way of looking at it, but it's such a wonderful, pure way of showing who Aelin was, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's jealous. She's spoiled. She's a child. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't know better because no one's taught her better. No one's been like, hey, little girl, stop that. But it's such tiny things in this chapter, does so much, and it's just really good writing.
Yeah. One thing that really sticks out in this chapter also is the fact that Aelin, as an 8-year-old, will reflect on the fact she has no friends.
Yeah.
And knowing that she has no friends, she still continues to be jealous of and, not want to bother with a lead who
Yeah.
probably she could have been friends with.
This is a slippery slope of what very much could have been I just don't have any girlfriends. They're
Mm-hmm.
drama.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, SJM, you made her dance a fine pick me line.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also really exciting to get to see a young Dorian quote. And I just kind of like when I imagine him like an anime chibi,
I do too.
chibi Dorian.
Yeah.
And so Selena is looking at the king of Otterlin at this point, and she thinks, quote, that she hated the way he ignored his dark-haired son, who stood like a pretty doll beside him, his manners so elegant and graceful, his pale hands like little birds as they moved. It's so freaking funny where she's just like, oh my God, he's pretty and delicate and dainty, and I hate it. But at the same time, he's kind of everything that she is not and struggling to be also. So she's feeling extra harsh about that. And I feel like it's still very much Dorian, who knows to just stand there and be an ornament. And it's really sad when you think that this is the way that he is because he was raised this way.
I love this image because Dorian, unlike the Dorian we first met in Throne of Glass, comes across as so like demure and feminine. There's nothing granted, he's 9, but there's nothing masculine
Yeah.
about this Dorian, where you might say he's the epitome of toxic masculinity at the start of Throne of Glass. I
But
also Go
sorry,
ahead.
but you can also say he is the epitome of nothing masculine still because he
Yes.
needs everyone to save him.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
He knows how
Absolutely.
to mask the masculine.
Yes. He puts on the airs of masculinity, but isn't actually masculine.
Yeah.
I also find the use of little birds to describe his hands as an interesting choice because, of course, the first thing I thought of was the ortolan songbird. I think that's how you say it, which is a delicacy in French cuisine where I'll read the description of it, but basically it's a bird you can eat in a single bite.
Nope.
So this is the image I conjured in my head when I read the line, his pale hands like little birds. So ortolans are small songbirds, force-fed grains to fatten them up, then drowned in brandy. Then when they're prepared, the bird is eaten whole in one bite, except for the beak. Diners cover themselves with napkins to hide their sin from God. And that is what I
What?
that is what I think of when I think of Dorian.
I hate this.
It's a thing.
No. People just need to eat their rotisserie chicken over a kitchen sink in shame like I do.
In full frontal of God.
That's what I do. Full frontal to God in front of God. I mean, I don't God, am I being damned for that? I don't know. God see me naked. I'm so confused.
Anyway, that's what I think of with Dorian's little hands. Like,
Okay.
he's feminine, he's weak, he's bred just to be eaten or just to be consumed, which in some ways might be true.
Ortolan? I thought you misspelled Otterlin.
Mm.
So that's kind of interesting.
Oops.
They're so Oh! No! Oh, they look like a little baby bird.
I didn't tell you to look at it.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
It was in your subtext.
Ah. Now, what is interesting in this context is that Dorian is the better quote unquote bred royal compared to Aelin and Aedion. Quote, he ate so beautifully, she thought, watching him cut into his roast chicken. Not a drop moved out of place, not a scrap fell on the table. She had decent manners, while Aedion was hopeless. Dorian, consuming food in a proper way, in some ways, again, shows his femininity, which is implied in this moment, weakness. He is not fey. He's not animalistic. He is not doing what he needs to survive. He's quote unquote putting on airs, which Aelin and Nadine don't feel the need to. Aelin talks about this because they are more savage. They are more fey. Fey don't put on airs. When Aelin starts to tell Dorian that people in the north don't put on airs, one of the courtiers has to stifle a laugh. Quote, she could almost hear Quinn saying, says the little lady with her hair pressed into careful curls and wearing her new dress that she threatened to skin us over if we got dirty. Just another subtle hair reference, and I keep bringing it up because, like King Orlin, like Quinn, they keep Estraham is calling attention to her hair.
Mhm.
Right after current Selena's hair has been chopped off. And like Jack said, there's identity in hair, there's memory in hair. There are cultures that cut their hair when they mourn. There are cultures where if you cut your hair, you are ashamed. If you think about Samson and Delilah, Samson's strength was in his hair. And so when Delilah cut it, he no longer had strength.
In my culture, cutting your hair means you have bleached it too much, and that is the culture of Los Angeles.
You've done too much damage. Have to
Yeah.
start over.
Kinda.
Now, I like this idea of mourning because Aelin has never had the opportunity to truly mourn this set of memories we're about to see.
Yeah.
She's never faced that past until now. And so it's appropriate that as she's facing the past, she mourns it and thereby has her hair cut.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I had not put those together. I was just busy, being taken by the moment, especially how the king starts trying to get into the king of Otterland starts trying to get into baby 8-year-old Aelin's head. And it just makes me really sad all around because, there's this dark worm. It's getting into her head. She's freaking out. Her powers all rile up. And it honestly reminds me of Caltaine. Quote, right between her eyes, it ached and pressed at her head, trying to get in. And it just, more empathy for Caltaine, please.
Yeah, agree. Now, Aelin's power erupts during dinner. And I have to point out that there's this rule of 3 showing up in this scene because the King of Otterland only looks at her 3 times,
Mhm.
and all 3 times have to do with the progression of Aylin's magic revealing itself. So it's a nice, subtle way of using the power of 3 within a single scene. Now, leading up to this moment, there were also a lot of blue and turquoise references. Her dress is blue, Aylin's eyes are turquoise, and then her flame, quote, and then she was burning a living column of turquoise flame. So something about the blue and the turquoise is accentuating her power because we know Terracin's colors to be green, so it's odd for her to be wearing blue,
Yeah.
except it's part of her identity.
I really liked that. I mean, it was around this scene where I was like, "Oh, because it's gold with turquoise, right? Like, those are her eyes, which is what
Mhm.
they're known for," where it's like, "Oh, that's just, like, her fire with a hint of water."
Mhm. Mhm. I like that. We've also spoken before how Aylin's positive memories of her parents really only seem to have to do with her father and not her mother.
Yeah.
Her mother was always worried, withdrawn, and now we kind of know why. And it's tragic. Evelyn uses her water magic to stifle and put out Aylin's fire. Quote, then water, a wall of water crashing down on her, slamming her to the stones, flowing down her throat into her eyes, choking her, drowning her, until there was no air for her flame, only water and its freezing embrace.
I know. She had to waterboard her own child.
Like, it's so tragic to know that you basically have to drown your child anytime her magic goes too far.
Yeah.
And it's her responsibility, Evelyn's responsibility to do because she's the one with the water magic, even though it was the father, Ro, telling Evelyn
To do it.
to do it. He doesn't carry that burden, which means Aelin has nightmares of drowning because of her mother.
Oh.
And
Oh.
that's before she even falls into the river.
Yeah.
And so it's no surprise then that all her memories of her mother are negative because only negative experiences, like oftentimes, a person's very first memory that you can recall is often negative. If you think
Did
about
did you decide that, or is that
I
science?
remember learning this in a class, and,
Okay,
like, the
okay.
whole class had to go around and say what their first memory was. Later in the memory, Evelyn tells Aelin, quote, "I'm sorry," her mother whispered onto her forehead, for the nightmares had also been of drowning, of icy water closing over her head. "I am so sorry, Fireheart." That's the last memory she has of her mother.
Uh, we're not giving the dad enough shit, and, like, I'm not saying that the dad did wrong or that the mom did wrong, but the fact that it had to be her drowning her own child,
Mhm.
and that association is now what's with her.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is really sad.
it's super sad. Can I go off on a tangent? I saw a reel last night, and whether or not it's real doesn't matter. It's the concept of this woman said, she was 5 years old. The last time she ever saw her grandmother was at a holiday party. Her parents and her grandmother had gotten in a fight, and so her grandmother, whom she loved, got back at her parents by ignoring her, the granddaughter, for the entire party and then never saw her again. Never came into her life
Oh.
again. And,
Oh.
like, all the trauma that that caused in her life, and she was only
Oh.
5 years old, but, like, how that shaped her personality, and this is why I will never have children because 'cause I'm too terrified of fucking it up.
No, the thing is, that's not fucking it up. That is making a choice,
Yeah,
and that is a bad person. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, there's a
yeah,
difference between, like, something accidentally comes out of your mouth, like, I tease all the time, and I probably would say something, teasingly accidentally, and then it just scars my child, versus, like, manipulating a situation to hurt the kid
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Uh-uh.
Anyway,
I
that
just
made me think of this, not because Evelyn wanted to, but because she has no control of how Aelin thinks of herself
Yep,
following this.
yep. So sad. Now, after this, the next morning happens and Aelin has to go have tea with Dorian, which is kind of cute. You're like, oh, little prince and princess playing tea time. And in previous books, I can't remember if it's Throne of Glass or Crown of Midnight, but we get Dorian's perspective when he thinks about having tea with Aelin. And he was just like, oh, she was so upset that I spilled tea on her. And then I love that we get it from Aelin's perspective now. Quote, and when Dorian's flawless manners faltered and he knocked over the teapot, spilling on her new dress, she made a good show of having Adian threaten to pummel him. But she didn't care about the prince or the tea or the dress. Again, it's just a lot more depth to her. This is a lot more to Aelin than,
Hmm.
the pretty dresses.
It's interesting that even at that age, there was a lot that was performative
Yeah.
about her.
And I think that's fair. Like, I think that give little humans more credit on them being aware and knowing what they need to do to put on airs, which is, again, super
Hmm.
tragic. And another moment of just showing how good SJM is at her writing, especially in the second half of the book. It's when she tells the story of Lady Marion and her husband and the love story between them. And it's so sweet. And a lot gets done in a really short amount of time. Quote, Hapsent, oh, handsome Cal Loken, who somehow become the dirtiest man in the castle and constantly needed Marion's advice on how to remove various stains, who one day asked a bastard-born servant to be his wife, and not just wife, but Lady of Peranth, the second largest territory in Terrasen. 2 years later, she had borne him Elide, heir of Peranth. Such a short story, very quick, but I love it when this happens, when you're able to give such small details in a quick moment that it paints a larger story. Think of this as like any Taylor Swift song, particularly All Too Well, right? You have the line, you used to be a little kid with glasses in a twin size bed. And it's just small words, large impact. And I think
Hmm.
that's some of my favorite type of writing.
It's at this point that we learn the origin of Aelin's beliefs that she is a monster, that Aelin is a monster because she thinks it even before Aelin's parents were killed. Just the act of being sent away from the palace in Orinth, the 8-year-old Aelin thinks, quote, a monster. That was what she was, a monster who had to be contained and monitored. Because, quote, they only summered here, the country house, as the house was too drafty for winter and the roads too perilous. The fact that they'd come, dot, dot, dot. Whether or not Aelin is correct, Aelin is making inferences. Children make inferences and they learn to believe certain things based on those inferences. And in Aelin's case, she is learning to believe she's the reason everyone's life is hard. She is the reason why others make sacrifices. And that makes her a monster.
Yep. Yep. And Aelin wakes up in the middle of the night or is struggling to go to bed, and Aelin's mom gives her one of the special pendants. Quote, White stag had been carved of horn, horn gifted from the lord of the forest. Between his curling antlers was a burning crown of gold, the immortal star that watched over them and pointed to the way home to Terrasen. I love the description, just it's very biblical. It's very religious, maybe not biblical, but religious. And I feel like you can point to several different religions to create this image. And if you want to make something seem very mystical and, fantastical, all of these things you can kind of point to what's been used in various religions throughout history in our world. But just, I appreciate it.
It's also a little breadcrumb for
Yeah.
later.
Oh, yeah. Big old breadcrumb. I'm just going to continue to highlight moments in writing that stands out to me when I think they're particularly good. Quote, the rain had soaked everything, but they had to be exhausted from dealing with her and from anxiety they tried to hide. So this is when Aelin is sneaking into bed with her parents and it's raining, the door's open, and she's like, oh, I need to close it because they must be so tired with how much they were worrying and being anxious because of me. And it just shows, again, little tiny things to show us how much shame she feels.
Mm-hmm.
Then Marion comes in and finds Aelin in between her parents' bodies and, starts screaming. And you okay, Amy?
Yeah, it's just sad.
Yeah. Quote, Marion stayed and drew a bath, helping her peel away the cold, bloody nightgown. They did not talk, did not try. Lady Marion bathed her, and when she was clean and dry, she carried her down to the cold kitchen. Chronologically, this is the first bath that we see with Aelin, and it's to wash away her parents' blood. This is the least amount of cleansing of sins. This is cleansing of other people's sins, but this is a moment that she's going to encompass and own and feel like it's her fault. And it's almost as if you could say that every bath from here on out is her trying to wash away this sin.
And I'm going to agree and disagree a little bit, only because of what we see from Aelin's point of view later, that the point that broke her the most was not her parents' death, but Marion's death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and and here, if we look at it, the bath is almost that cleansing of the parents' death, but
Yeah.
she never gets cleansed from Marion's death.
I can see that too. I could continue to say otherwise, but I'm just going to roll with it because we still have another page and a half
Yeah.
of this chapter. So this is just absolute pure skill because we did not even meet Marion until this chapter, and we get so much heart from her. And SJM is making, again, a lot of things happen in a short amount of time. Quote. So this is Marion telling Elena to get the hell out of there. Quote, no matter what you hear, no matter what you see, don't look back and don't stop until you find a place to hide. Tell my Elide, her voice broke. Tell my Elide that I love her very much. This is when I was starting to cry. And just the use of my, it's the endearment, and it makes the readers feel not just endeared to Marion, but to Elide. We haven't met Elide. Not even truly met her. She's just been on the periphery. And we just met Marion, and we're like, no, tell my Elide. That's heartbreaking. So just use of smart words.
Mm-hmm.
And the death scene is so powerful. This is when Aelin is watching Marion die or be murdered. Quote, she knew enough about death to understand that once a head was severed like that, it was over. Knew that Lady Marion, who had loved her husband and daughter so much, was gone. Knew that this was called sacrifice. Powerful, guys. Like, you can literally see the moment where her innocence is gone and she has to grow up. You can see the progression. Aelin knew enough about death to understand that when a head is severed like that, right? Like, you can see that that's such a younger notion, right? You're learning the basics mechanics of death all the way to knew that this was called sacrifice. That progression, that teaching these life lessons is so painful to watch.
Yeah, especially at 8 years old. Like, at 8
Yeah.
years old, you're not supposed to know what sacrifice means.
No.
And it's such a poignant moment, and that is what kills me, is the lesson that Aelin learns in that moment. I also want to note that as she's running away from the murder scene, she's running towards the river. The description calls the evening a moonless night. I'm just going to point that out because in Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks, we have an email from Catalina talking about Sailor Moon, and it's relevant to this moonless night.
Interesting. I mean, you do know that there was a lot of like Sailor Moon inspiration. I mentioned that before, right?
Yes, and Catalina goes into it as well.
Okay, cool. I was like, this isn't like, I hope you're not thinking this is the first time Sailor Moon has been.
No.
Okay, cool. Because an attractive man with dark hair and blue eyes that's kind of useless and needs to be saved. Very Tuxedo Mask quoted. Which I can't wait for us to talk about. You guys need to understand, I loved Sailor Moon growing up. So now we're going to get into some more symbolism. That's just beautiful. So at this point, the memory ends. Aelin, like Selena, baby Aelin goes crashing down into the river, and in this journey of mental hell, she's reached the bottom. Quote, Aelin Galathinius reached a hand for her. Get up, she said softly. Selena shook her head. Aelin strained for her, bridging that rift in the foundation of the world. Get up. A promise for a better life, a better world. Only Aelin can save Selena. Specifically, only young Aelin can save Selena because there is a rebirth happening. There's fire, there's death. She is the phoenix.
I didn't even think about that, and I must have skipped it in your notes, but you're right. It's like Selena's the fire, the darkness is the ashes from which Aelin the phoenix arises.
Yep.
Ah!
Yep.
It's also a really beautiful Throne of Glass callback. At the end of the competition, fighting Cain, Kale was on the ground reaching for Selena, saying, get up, get up, get up.
Yeah.
And for the first time, it's Aelin saving herself, lying next to her, reaching for her, saying, get up. It's just beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Like I said or alluded to earlier, I love the fact that what haunts Aelin the most is not her parents, but the sacrifice of Lady Marian. Quote, that moment, Lady Marian had chosen a desperate hope for her kingdom over herself, over her husband and the daughter who would wait and wait for a return that would never come. That was the moment that had broken everything Aelin Galathinius was and had promised to be, which explains why Aelin doesn't like others making sacrifices for her, that she doesn't like to ask for help, why she's so upset about Nehemia purposefully sacrificing herself when she didn't need to. Quote, she had taken Lady Marian's sacrifice and become a monster, almost as bad as the one who had murdered Lady Marian and her own family. That was why she did not go home. Aelin, I'm so sorry that your childhood made you believe this.
I know.
And then Aelin starts to see all the people, not only her baby Aelin's self, but other people who in her life who are telling her to get up. Quote, one by one, the shadows emerging from the mist, they appeared, the faces of the people she had loved with her heart of wildfire. This is what made me cry. And then there was Lady Marian, smiling beside her husband. Get up, she whispered, her voice full of that hope for the world and for the daughter she would never see again.
Ooh.
Damn SJM, you're good.
When she brings them out, them Ratton guns, she brings them.
Yeah.
This book, this series so far has come to this very point, and that is of self-healing and acceptance. Quote, she still loved them, even if they loathed her, even if it ached. Loved them until their hissing faded, until they vanished like smoke, leaving only Aelin beside her, as she'd been all along. I'm like getting emotional reading that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's acceptance, right? It's kind of saying like, I don't know if they're mad at me in their last moments. Like she won't know how Nehemia felt at the end. She doesn't know how Sam felt about her at the end, but she can love them and she continue to love them no matter what. And at the end of the day, the only thing that you have is yourself next to you to push you, to point you forward. And it really just give extra points to SJM all around because it's about self-love and acceptance in order to heal. And it's just beautiful. And I'm going to continue that self-love and healing imagery with this quote. She looked at Aelin's face, the face she'd once worn, and at her still outstretched hand, so small and unscarred. Her past self was unscarred, hasn't gone through all of these things, hasn't gone through every single horrific thing that Selena has had to go through. And I just love this shift where she goes from considering herself as a monster. Quote, it would not take a monster to destroy a monster, but light to drive out darkness. She was not afraid. Selena Aelin, she is accepting. It used to be that Selena saw herself as a weapon, as a monster, as a thing to go out there and fight these other monsters, to kill these other monsters. But there is hope and there is a place where you can be different and do different and to grow. And this is that moment. And only Aelin was ever going to be able to heal Selena. No one else, no magic Fey dick or human dick could have saved her. Quote, when Selena reached across the earth between them and brushed her fingers against Aelin and arose. And this is just a beautiful way of executing it. And I
Mhm.
know that this imagery of your younger self healing your older self is used often. I mean, you can look at Wicked, the first movie. This came out before Wicked, the first movie, but Wicked 1 isn't the first one to do this.
Mhm.
There's been different versions of this, like, younger self healing your older self, but it's still done in a powerful and unique way.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's something we could talk about from the psychological lens, but all the time in therapy, we talk about like what is the inner child need that it was never given. And by addressing the needs of your childhood self, you address the needs of your adult self, your present self.
Yep.
Ugh. And that's what is happening on this page.
It's so true. All right, let's all take a sip. That was a long chapter.
It was a very long chapter.
All right. We're in chapter 55, and we're with
Woo.
Rowan now. And he is trying to get to Aelin, and his friends won't let him go. I'm so happy we can just call her Aelin now.
Yes.
Woo,
Thank
so over.
heaven.
Yeah. Then his friends are like, hey, no, you should not get yourself killed.
Yeah, that's probably the smart thing. That's why Aelin and Rowan or Selena and Rowan got along so well, because secretly they both are very willing to get themselves killed.
Mm-hmm.
What's I love about this opening scene, Rowan looking on where Selena has fallen, I enjoy it because after so much consumption, especially of Aelin and her powers and her pain, it's a fun twist that we get to see the act of feasting on Aelin becomes a moment of weakness rather than a moment of strength. Quote, the joy of feeding on her was something they planned to relish for a long, long while. Everything else was secondary, as if they'd forgotten to continue advancing, swept up in the frenzy of feasting. I love it because it's foreshadowing that this frenzy is a distraction and alludes again to their gluttony, their
Mm-hmm.
overindulgence, and that act will cost them.
Yep. Yep. So Rowan's freaking out about Aelin, and he's worried about her. But he also has a certain level of confidence. I mean, not confidence. He just knows that she's okay because, quote, he knew Aelin was alive because during all these weeks that they had been breathing each other's scents, they had become bonded. My note is that what the kids are calling it these days? Back in my time, they called it being horny.
I mean, both have something to do with pheromones, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There are a couple of instances, since we're in Rowan's point of view, that we learn he has been hearing Lyria's voice, and that's his dead mate. And he himself is feeling the pain of his past. Nevertheless, he is wholly focused on Aelin. Quote, if they, his friends, didn't hold him down, he would run for the darkness where Lyria beckoned. But for Aelin, he had tried to break free. Which, like Jack just read, is alluding to how strong their bond is.
After Aelin emerges from her little fire moment, we get to see her new haircut. Quote, her hair flowed around her, shorter now and bright like her fire. And it just reminds me of Natalie Portman. If you guys have seen the Star Wars episode 2, and Natalie Portman gets attacked by a monster, and all of a sudden she has the perfect crop top. And I'm just
Yeah.
imagining like Aelin with these like perfect layers blow out.
Well, what I like about this, I like to imagine, I know it's probably just out like this, but I like to imagine that it's up and around, kind of like a nimbus, like in
No.
Renaissance paintings,
Yeah, I reject
where it
that
makes them
image.
holy. Okay.
Nope, nope. We're gonna nix that image real fast.
We then get to complete the metaphor that started with Beltane. Quote, her magic was raging so fiercely that the rain turned to steam before it hit her, a weapon bright from the forging. So Aelin has now completely been reforged. Started with Beltane with her burnout. Now here she has completed her descent only to rise again, and it is very satisfying.
Oh, completely. It's also satisfying is that Rowan finally breaks away. He goes running to Aelin, quote, "The gold and red blue flames utterly hers, their heir of fire." Very few times do I like when the title of a book is used in the writing. However, I do like it this time. And I think part of that is because Rowan is the one to see her as the heir of fire. It would not have worked at all if this was in Aelin's perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Rowan then reaches Aelin and they know that they're Canarum? Canaries?
Karanam.
Caranom. And they know that they're Caranom immediately because, one, it's obvious, but I still love it. Quote, "He had come for her. She held his gaze and she grabbed her own dagger and cut her palm right over the scar she'd given herself at Nehemia's grave." I love it because we're healing an old wound with a new wound, but we are covering that guilt-ridden scar, that scar that represented Selena in so many ways, represented the quote unquote failure that Selena felt like she had. And we are giving it new purpose and new meaning here as Aelin. And, let's cut off Nehemia. Toxic bitch, but get rid of her.
And again, all because of the way SJM chose to write Nehemia.
Nehemia herself is, Nehemia was done dirty by SJM in every avenue.
What I love about the symbolism of this is that Aelin is finally bleeding for a true friend. Because this is, in fact, the very first true friend she's ever had. Again, in her memory, she was jealous of Dorian having a friend. She didn't have a friend. No one she's interacted with so far has known her for her true self until Rowan.
Yeah.
And it's at this point that Rowan returns the claiming, quote, "And though she knew he could read the words on her face, she said, 'To whatever end?' He nodded, and she joined hands with him, blood to blood and soul to soul, his other arm coming around to grip her tightly. Their hands clasped between them, he whispered into her ear, 'I claim you too, Aelin Galathinius.'" Lyria rolling in her grave over here, going, "No, you've forgotten me."
I can't do that. Because they did the, hand, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
hug tight. You would be pressed between my breasts.
Yeah. I'm
Right up in there.
I'm sure Rowan's really enjoying it right now.
Nestled between the two. Yeah.
And so after he's claimed her, quote, "So she was not afraid of that crushing black, not with the warrior holding her, not with the courage that having one true friend offered, a friend who made living not so awful after all, not if she were with him." Aelin can never say that about Kale or Nehemia or Dorian. And this is really the only thing Aelin's ever wanted.
It's so true. It's so true. We have this moment when Selena kills the Vowed Princes, quote, "But she crammed the light down their throats, burning up their black blood." It's very fitting, forcing them to essentially eat her power. But also, the battle started with her swallowing her own blood, and now she's burning theirs up.
Yeah, I like the parallel
Me too.
use of that.
Me too. So now we're in chapter 56.
But we're going to take a sip first.
Whew. You guys have to understand that, by the end of this, we're kind of like, okay, we're close to being done, except we started doing breadcrumbs and broomsticks as different episodes, and we're trying to be better about not making them 20 minutes because we know that it's filled with ads. So we're trying to make them longer. So around here is when I'm like, oh, we're almost done. And then I'm like,
damn it, we're not.
Then we have to rally and make sure that the breadcrumbs are longer.
Yeah.
So now we're in 56, and Kale comes to visit Dorian and Sorsha because we've moved away. And Kale is just amazed with the new Dorian. And Kale just credits Sorsha for this amazing change. And at one point, Dorian is doing something, and Kale tells Sorsha, quote, "This kingdom could use a healer as its queen." She did not smile at him as he'd hope. I love this because you can tell like he really thought he did something here. Like, hey,
Mhm.
king could really use you. And one, I like that she's practical. I like she's like the likelihood of this is so freaking low. Two, they've been together for what? A month, maybe
Yeah.
2 months. Like, and it's just, what if she's not into him like that?
Yeah.
Long-term thing. But what's interesting is that the way Kale is showing respect for someone and saying that they've earned his respect is for her to then be owned by the crown and to
Mm.
marry Dorian and to get this place of honor. And it's not like he's not saying like, "Hey, I respect you, therefore you get to marry my friend." It's more about I respect you, therefore you get to step into a role that is
Mhm.
important because like that's the highest level of honor he could imagine.
Yeah.
Quick question because Kale's here to do like to check Dorian to do some magic stuff. And if Dorian's been drinking his special tonic, wouldn't it take a few days for it to cleanse out of his system?
So you bring up an interesting point that I had never thought of until I read your point. And I think the way I rationalize it is the iron in his blood is supposed to help him suppress the magic, but that
Yes.
doesn't mean he's completely cut off from the magic
Okay.
because his magic acts out, just less so.
No, I guess it has a little
It
bit.
has
Yeah.
when he was getting mad at Kale and Adian in the
Yeah.
tomb.
Yep.
Now, Kale wants Dorian to use his magic to test his theory. And like Jack said, luckily, even though he's got the iron in the blood and he does struggle with it, he's able to do it. But Kale, his theory is I'm going to have Dorian test this and it's going to tell me things. Quote, something in his gut said that maybe the spell required nothing more than power and sheer will. What? It just
Yeah.
feels it's just cheap writing, it's just lazy at that point, it's like, you just wrote something brilliant, SJM, and now you're gonna be lazy."
Yeah. Yep.
That's all.
It's fair. Then we have this moment, quote, "Dorian began sweating, swallowing repeatedly. Are you? I'm fine," Dorian gasped, and the first crystal began to glow white. Again, I'm coming back to that magic is a representation of their love. And again, go watch Heated Rivalry, but this is queer coded for me.
I mean, it's also demonstrating how difficult it is for him to access his power because the iron's in his blood,
Yeah.
but I don't disagree with you either. You know, the
Mhm.
so and the reason for that is when Dorian is able to start to get the crystal to glow and use his magic. Quote, Kale shoved back against his horror and awe at how much Dorian's control had grown. I also feel like this could be interpreted through the queer lens, like Kale is horrified but also fascinated by Dorian's love for him.
Or maybe magic is homosexuality and it's him embracing it, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Horrified at just how much he's
Dorian's
accepted
embraced. Yeah.
his own sexuality.
Yep. Yep, yep.
Dorian helps Kale, like, as he's getting ready to walk out, Dorian talks about his magic, quote, "I don't think I would wanna go back to how it was before, who I was before. And this?" He jerked his chin towards the scattered crystal and bowl of water. "I think this is a good change, too. Don't fear it." It works. I can't help that it works for
Yeah.
being a metaphor of Dorian coming out and embracing his sexuality
Yeah. Yeah.
and telling Kale not to fear his own sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, if you think about it, the way that Sorsha responds earlier, you could interpret Dorian and Sorsha being in, like, a beard
Oh,
situation
yeah.
because they
Oh,
never
yeah.
have sex.
She has his beard.
Anyway, we then have the final image of Dorian from Kale's point of view. Quote, when Dorian had spoken, it hadn't been a prince who looked at him. It had been a king. Now, is this true? I don't know. I think it's more for the pain that it's going to cause later. it implies a lot of growth from Dorian, and there has been some growth from Dorian, but not really. But I think it's the first time Kale's taken Dorian seriously.
I find this whole chapter to be more about Kale being a little bit delusional than it is
Mm,
about Dorian's growth.
mhm.
Between Kale being like, "We'd have a nice healer as a queen,"
Mhm.
to I only see a king, not a prince, where it's like Dorian hasn't done anything kingly yet, other than just saying, like, hey, I'd rather not pretend that I'm not who I am. And Sorsha hasn't done anything to prove that she is a queen beyond
Yeah,
just be there for his friend.
right.
Yes, she's making tonics, but, it's not queen.
Yeah. He's so desperate to be in Dorian's good graces again that he's
Yeah.
looking at everything through rose-tinted glasses.
I think he's desperate to find a royalty he can believe in.
Yeah,
'Cause
that's
he
fair.
can't believe in the king. He can't believe in what's happening. He keeps getting what is he gonna do? Go follow Selena? No.
Mhm.
But if Dorian can step up,
Yeah.
and if Dorian could be the king that he wants him to be, then Kale doesn't have to spiral question.
Yeah, it's a great point. All right, that wraps up our analysis for today. As a reminder, because Breadcrumbs and Broomsticks is very spoilery, it will air on Thursday. That is also where we will discuss listener thoughts and interpretations. We have collected these from those of you who use the form on our website, DMs you send us, responses to Spotify, because we do read those even if we don't respond, etc. So, before we
Yeah.
do that though, we have to decide if there's a scene we want to analyze from multiple lenses.
I think we've done some good moments throughout.
Yeah.
I think that you talking about Selena being in awe with Rowan's undiluted power, it can be viewed in a very, if you want, a very problematic way. This is not a way of going in and saying like SJM's problematic.
No.
She's done problematic shit before, and we will be the first to point out problematic shit. I think that as Amy has pointed out in other books, you can see, I think there's plenty in not just SJM works, but in other works where these fey males are so powerful that they are these pure-blooded males, basically. And let's just talk about this in a larger context of writing and what we're seeing in romantasy in general, but the celebration of these MMCs who are the embodiment of perfection and pure power in their society or species. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking of maybe even Kingfisher from Quicksilver, right? Like
Mm.
all of these Fae type beings, when they're the most powerful in the world, and or in their world, it's like, are we celebrating? I'm not or not eugenics, but like, are we celebrating like this idea of purity? Is
Mhm.
pure strength equal to purity within the species?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, go ahead. I'm not saying that's what we believe. I just think that this is how you do literary lenses.
Yeah, I mean, again, I completely agree with you. I'm not saying that this is what authors are intending,
Yeah. Or that they
but
should change either.
right, I'm not saying any of that. All I am saying is that you can read it through a lens, colonial lens, historical lens, that makes the interpretation uncomfortable in
Yeah.
the way that it glorifies this purebrededness, which is ironic because my purebred cats have all sorts of problems. They're
Oh, so
allergic to
true.
everything.
They
Like
really are.
purebreds, the irony is that if you look at real life,
Mhm.
purebred royals or like interbred royals where they keep marrying inside the
Yeah.
family to keep their blood pure, it actually causes a lot of genetic problems.
Yeah. Well, I do you mind if I,
No, go
do a
ahead.
little switcheroo? This same concept, I will bring up again what I mentioned earlier. if you want to take it from the feminist lens, it is just the most pure way of saying, you mate, you male, you alpha, you breed with me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take away the purebredness of it all and look at it as the most animalistic, breeding focused.
Mm-hmm.
What's the primary drive for women is to get to the strongest man.
Right.
And it is a continued narrative when we look at these otherworldly men, these fey men with these mortal women, is just a constant hunt for the perfect man to breed with. And
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. I would be interested in a book where the MMC is not the strongest,
mm, mm-hmm.
right? To challenge that, because everything does come down to, like, whether we're conscious of it or not, it is historically, women are selected for their breeding potential. Men are selected for their breeding potential. That is how the circle of life works. That is
Yeah.
how animals work.
Mm-hmm.
So what if that is not the story anymore? What if
You don't get to play this idea because then you're going to want to write it and you, Missy, have other things to work on.
I do. I don't want to write it, but it's fun to think about.
I think mine is a little bit like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I think mine has some elements that I am choosing to subvert what has kind of been out there. And I would argue, like, with mine, it's a bit like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we, so that we can continue with breadcrumbs?
Yes. Thanks for listening to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy. Join us Thursday for our breadcrumbs and broomsticks discussion of today's chapters.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps other listeners and readers find us. And of course, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's episode. Share your comments through our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com, and we might feature your feedback in a future mini episode or in a Patreon exclusive episode.
For merch and more ways to support the show, head to booktalkforbooktalk.com. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at the handle BookTalk for Book Talk. And don't forget to join us by subscribing to the Subtext Society Journal.substack.com to get more insights into the romantasy and romance world. Bye.
Bye.